Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us. So it's been an eventful, I'd say, last few weeks since President Trump won on November 5th, November 6th, I guess is the real date he really won the election. But it's been very eventful. I mean, filling up his cabinet with top-level people. Some people, we didn't expect. Matt Gaetz, for one, to be the next attorney general. Tulsi Gabbard to run the DNI. Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk to go in there and gut the government and all the corruption that we've seen over the last 4.5 years, really 9 years of political persecution against President Trump. But nonetheless, a very unprecedented administration, but it's shaping up to be something that I don't think I've ever imagined. Matt Gaetz, for once, facing a lot of backlash from some rhinos in the Senate. We're getting reporting out of the Wall Street Journal that, according to their reporting, as many as 30 rhinos have decided to split ranks behind the scenes. Of course, these folks aren't going to come out in public and tell us that they're not voting for Matt Gaetz, so they're going to do everything they could to throw him off. But apparently, as many as 30 rhinos are trying to stop the Gaetz nomination for attorney general. And I think the reason for that is they know what Matt Gaetz is going to do. Matt Gaetz is going to come in and do business. It's not going to be business as usual. It's going to be new business and none of that BS that we've seen in the past. But to those 30 rhinos, and we don't know who they are yet, of course, because it's a secrecy thing. These guys are all closet thugs, we'll call them. But to those 30 folks, let's remember the seats that are open in 2026 for Senate. And I just want to go down the list. And I'm not saying any of these people are the 30 that are opposing Matt Gaetz, but I just want to go through the list of the 30 senators, the 2026 senators who are up for re-election. Starting in Alabama, Tommy Tuberville, Alaska, Daniel Sullivan, Arkansas, Tom Cotton, Idaho, Jim Risch, Iowa, Rhino Journey, Joni Ernst, Kansas, Roger Marshall, Froghorn Leghorn, Mitch McConnell out in Kentucky, Bill Cassidy in Louisiana, another known rhino. Maine, Susan Collins, another known rhino. Mississippi, Cindy Hyde-Smith. Montana, Steve Daines. In Nebraska, Pete Rickens. Tom Tillis in North Carolina. Mark Wayne Mullen in Oklahoma, who's decided recently he wanted to become a rhino. South Carolina, Lady G, as they call him, Lindsey Graham. South Dakota, Mike Rounds. Tennessee, Bill Haggerty. Texas, Rhino Senator John Cornyn. West Virginia, Shelley Moore Capito. And Wyoming, Cynthia Loomis. So, folks, it's time we put these people on notice. And now I said to you before I read that list to you that I'm not sure if any of those folks, I'm assuming the names like Susan Collins or Sullivan up in Alaska are on the list of 30 opposing Matt Gaetz. But it's something to keep in the back of your mind as we look towards now 2026 of these folks who are going to be in the Senate. So that's something definitely to keep an eye on because these people need to pay the price if they're going to start upending the Trump agenda before he's even coming into office. President Trump, an amazing weekend, flew up to New York for the UFC fight. And as always, President Trump actually making a return to Madison Square Garden, getting an absolutely amazing welcome from the New York crowd. Take a listen.
And ladies and gentlemen, look who is now making his way to the world-famous octagon, flanked by UFC CEO Dana White, 45, soon to be 47, President-elect Donald Trump.
I wish the people at home could hear the sound in this room.
It's so loud in here.
It is so loud. It's always loud when he comes here, but now that he's won, now that he's the president again,
Yes.
Oh my God.
So Donald Trump making his way to watch the UFC, which he absolutely loves, and doing so with some sort of victory lap after regaining the presidency earlier this month in emphatic fashion with an election blowout of the Democratic candidate, Kamala Harris. Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations.
For those of you who are joining us on video, you saw just how happy Joe Rogan was to see President Trump. But that's a New York crowd, a deep New York crowd. I'm a New Yorker myself, and I've never seen anything like it. I was at the MS3 rally, the one they called the Nazi rally. I was there. I never seen anything like it. I go to probably 20 Knicks games a year. Never seen anything like it for a Knicks game. So nonetheless, remarkable for President Trump, and he does so well at those UFC events. The folks on CNN, of course, having a total meltdown about it not being able to handle that. President Trump is just absolutely popular among the American folks. Dana White, the president of the UFC, coming out after the fight to give President Trump a little shout out. Take a listen to Dana White.
Well, if you saw the election, the entire country relates with Trump right now. Won all the swing states. The only states she won were the ones that you didn't need ID to vote in. It would have been interesting if you needed ID, how that would have played out too. I think that the whole country, it feels like somebody hit the reset button. Everything feels, and
you know, it absolutely does feel like that, like a reset button has come. It's sort of amazing because back in 2016 and 2020, you had a lot of closet Trumpers. And by that, I mean people who supported President Trump but couldn't come out into the mainstream. And these are folks who are people in the public eye who couldn't come out and say that they support President Trump because of things like the left naming them racist and xenophobes and all that crap that they come after Trumpers with for simply supporting President Trump. But now it seems it's becoming a popular thing to support President Trump. Here's a Detroit Lions over the weekend. Take a look at their dance that they do and tell me if it looks familiar.
Smith, Zadarius Smith with a sack in his Lion.
They weren't the only ones. Brock Bowers on the Las Vegas Raiders. Not exactly a good team, but take a look at Brock Bowers doing a dance.
Is open for a first down. He sheds one tackle into the end zone. Touchdown Raiders. 23 yards for the rookie.
That's Brock Bowers. I want to wrap up with one more and go back to UFC over there. John Jones, who was obviously the main fight card for everyone who watches UFC over the weekend, the greatest fighter in the world and a massive supporter of President Trump. I want to play this clip for you to show how great of an American John Jones is and how proud he is to be an American.
I'm sure. I also want to say a big, big thank you to President Donald Trump for being here tonight. Can I get a Hey, what do you guys think about my version of the Donald Trump? Check it out. USA! USA! Let's go! That's right. I'm proud to be a great American champion. I'm proud to be a Christian American champion.
As Dana White said, it seems like America has hit the reset button. These are things that we didn't see, folks, in 2020. These aren't things we saw in 2016. These people, proud supporters of America. So for these folks on CNN to come out and call us racist and xenophobes, what do you call John Jones, a African-American man who's the number one fighter in the world? What do you call him for supporting President Trump? Is he a racist as well? So with that reset comes Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, which I had mentioned to you, who are heading up the DOGE committee, the department that will oversee all government agencies and seeing how they can cut and save some wasteful spending and get rid of these woke ideologies. Vivek Ramaswamy was on Fox News over the weekend, issuing a warning to the Marxist Dems. Take a listen.
Are you expecting to close down entire agencies like President Trump has talked about the Department of Education, for example? Are you going to be closing down departments?
We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force in areas of the federal government that are bloated. We expect massive cuts among federal contractors and others who are overbilling the federal government. So, yes, we expect all of the above. And I think people will be surprised by, I think, how quickly we're able to move with some of those changes, given the legal backdrop the Supreme Court has given us.
So the Marxist Dems should absolutely be shaking, but I don't know why they are. $1.8 trillion budget for HHS. Where's that money going, folks? How much are we paying for transgender surgeries for children? How much are we dumping into these woke transgender surgeries for military members, folks? Those are things that Vivek and Elon are going to look into, and we should have looked in long ago. But Also with Vivek and Elon comes some more troubles for these Marxist leftists. The Trump transition team is reportedly drawing up lists of deceitful military officers for court-martial consideration, treason charges possibly on the table. These are folks like, of course, Mark Milley, who came out after President Trump left office and said that he kept us out of war. He wouldn't let Trump near the nuclear button. Speaking to China's Xi Jinping behind Trump's back. All treasonous activity. So I'm glad to see that President Trump and his transition team are keeping up on their promises. Also over the weekend, Joe Biden has reportedly authorized the use of strikes for Ukraine against Russia with U.S.-made long-range missiles. So Joe Biden leaving, I think, it all on the field for us as he leaves office now here in the next few months, trying to start a war to leave on President Trump. Now, 2 weeks ago, I thought President Trump and Joe Biden were friends, so I'm not exactly sure if this was a move of Joe Biden or the move of the deep state cabal. I guess we're going to have to go ahead and wait and see. Hopefully, Vladimir Putin, doesn't takes it with a grain of salt, I should say, and expects President Trump to do the right thing when he comes in January and rights this wrong. Folks, today's show is going to be a little bit different. This was a cause for today's show that Lou took near and dear to his heart, and it was January 6th and the events that happened on that day. So this show today is going to be dedicated to January 6ers. We're going to take a quick break here. When we return, we're going to be joined by brilliant attorney Joseph McBride, CEO and founder of McBride Law Group. We're coming right back, folks. Stay with us.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
We're back, folks. Thanks for staying with us through that short break. So like I said, today we're going to be talking January 6th and the day that was. It's now years in the rearview mirror, but there's still folks who are paying a deep, deep price for what happened that day. And absolutely nothing happened that day. I want to play a reel for you guys really quickly. I was there on January 6th reporting for Lou Dobbs Tonight for Fox Business. I saw what went on. I spoke with the folks there on the ground. And it's a far different picture, folks, that I saw with my own eyes than the mainstream media paints for you guys to see out every single day. And rhino hacks like Mike Pence who are coming out saying he doesn't want these folks pardoned. He doesn't want President Trump keeping his promise to do right by these folks. I want to show you guys what happened on that day when I was there some years ago on January 6th, 2021.
Lou Dobbs Tonight, John Fawcett, down in D.C. yesterday to see what people are saying. And he asked about why they were, who they were blaming for that Democratic sweep.
Who do you blame for this overwhelming Democratic sweep?
I blame the Democrats, for one, and I also blame the rhinos. It's unbelievable what is happening in our nation, and we're not going. You see a million people here. We're fed up. We're not going to take this anymore. We're not going to allow the Democrat Party and the Republican Party to take over our democracy.
Oh, it's fraud. They didn't win anything. Trump got 80+ million votes. You do all the investigation. That's all Pence needs to do. Kick it back. Let this work itself out for being investigated. It's blatantly in your face.
Because it was stolen. I just feel that the unfairness and the lack of standing up and representing, and then it's going to take some people that's done something wrong to admit it and come forth.
One, the DNC for cheating, and two, the Republicans that didn't want to come back out and keep supporting them.
I tell you what, I don't understand how these Democratic candidates can go out and not get 15 people there, and you have hundreds of thousands of people here, and they still win. So I think there's definitely corruption going on.
A lot of the public doesn't even care what's going on. They're going about their daily lives because they've been tricked by the media, so they don't care what's going on. We're out here fighting for everybody that doesn't care. We're supposed to be the racists and the bad people, but we're fighting for them.
The Democrats, they're so far left. We aren't, it's not like America anymore.
Will you ever support any of these weak Republicans who are not fighting for the president right now?
Well, you would see Nancy Pelosi become a nun before I would vote for a weak Republican.
Absolutely not. I'm telling you, there's not a patriot that will. This is a serious deal. These people want to take our country away from us and sell it to China so they can get rich. Are you kidding?
No, they're not Republicans as far as I'm concerned. They're Democrats or Chinese-owned corporate Americans.
They're not going to stand up and be a Republican if they're going to follow in. Like, the Democrats all stick together. Why don't the Republicans do that and support our president? Because we're the voice.
2022 is going to be a brutal year for you, and every race for dog catcher, for state legislature, for any judge is going to be a bloodbath for the establishment Republicans.
Get out of the way. We've been sitting back for 4 years, watching you guys use the media to propagate Trump and acting like he's a Nazi. We just sat back and waited. We did the right thing. We came out to the election. We voted, and you guys trying to steal it. We're not going to stand by and let it happen. So if you're not going to stand for the fight, get out of the way. It's people that will do it for you.
Go away. We got stuff we want to do. We have life we want to get back to. I have been out of work since March. I'm a clown. I really am a clown. That's my job.
Every politician, all these hack politicians that we have, there needs to be term limits. Yes. Some of these people got in office when I was a child. I'm 53. They're still there. They're the problem.
They're the problem. There is no doubt of that.
The great Lou Dobbs. I miss him so much every single day. I think about him before I go to sleep and when I wake up in the morning. But, folks, you saw what happened that day. I mean, there wasn't a violent person I spoke to that day. Everyone had American flags waving in the wind, Trump flags waving in the wind. I didn't see any sort of violence. And then just minutes later, all of a sudden, windows are being broken at the Capitol. So, folks, I want to bring in our guest today who's waited long enough while I ran my mouth. Joe McBride, brilliant attorney. Joe, thanks so much for joining us today. You've done so much for these January 6ers who are just living in, some of them living in hell, Joe. I was there on that day. I didn't see any of the stuff that they've alleged happen. Obviously, we saw it happen, but we also now find out, Joe, that there were government agitators there. There were people who were there on behalf of the U.S. government infiltrating the crowd. Now, I don't know of any instance of why that would happen unless you were trying to stage something. Joe, your thoughts as we look back now, January 6, 2021, with President Trump coming back in just a few months.
Well, John, it is good to be here. There is so much to say. But first, before I get started, I'd just like to make a brief comment about our good friend, Lou Dobbs, who is no longer with us. I've appeared on so many shows. I've met so many people as a consequence of being one of the first attorneys out and speaking and advocating for January 6ers. It wasn't often that I got starstruck. But when I met Lou, when I spoke to Lou, I mean, I've been watching him for so long. I grew up with the guy. And every time I spoke to him, I was just a little bit amazed. And I always made sure to tell him, because he meant so much to me. He meant so much to my family. He meant so much to this country. And he was always on the right side of January 6th. And I was incredibly proud to be able to work with him and work with you during that time. And I'm glad to be on the show here with you today. With regard to your question, look, it's been a very long and hard road for all January 6ers, not just for them, but for their family members as well. January 6th was one big, gigantic entrapment operation. They wanted things to get out of control. They wanted people to approach the walls of the Capitol. They invited people into the Capitol because Trump and Trump supporters had everything to lose. Yep. And we saw their animus. We saw their plan go into action immediately after January 6th with the public cancellations, the loss of jobs, mass incarceration of American citizens on an industrial level, and, of course, the plot to get Trump, which failed. It failed miserably. These people, these Marxists, these infiltrators of the deep state, have grossly underestimated the will of the American citizen to live free or to die. And I don't say that as a matter of hyperbole. That's what that kind of principle is what our country was founded on. We're not communists. We're not socialists. We're free men and women who live in the greatest country the world has ever known. And now we have the greatest president this country's ever known back in office.
Yeah, Joe, it kills me. I know we played a lot of video throughout this show, but important stuff that I think the audience needs to hear and the audience needs to see, because it's things that you won't see on Fox News and MSNBC and CNN and even Newsmax. Mike Pence, who's an absolute rhino traitor. This is from a few years ago when he decided he was going to run for president. He's got a severe case of animus against January 6ers. I want to play this clip for the audience, and I want to get your reaction.
The Constitution of the United States.
Sir, on that, Donald Trump says he is, quote, inclined to pardon many members of the mob who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Those people were, of course, part of the same mob who built gallows and chanted about wanting to hang you. Would you consider pardoning any of them?
On the day of January 6th, I issued a tweet demanding that people leave the Capitol and end the violence. And I said that those that failed to do that should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And I continue to believe that today. We cannot ever allow what happened on January 6th to happen again in the heart of our democracy. And I'll stand by the decisions and the due process of court in our laws. And I have no interest or no intention of pardoning those that assaulted police officers or vandalized our Capitol. They need to be answerable to the law.
Joe, what Mike doesn't mention is the small percentage of folks who actually did vandalism and who they were there on behalf of. Now, I'm sure there were Trump supporters there who did some sort of vandalism or whatever. Very, very, very small percentage, right? Pushing down a barricade, going into an office, whatever. That's technically whatever they want to call it, okay? But there were agitators there who were doing serious damage, starting fires and stuff like that. These aren't folks who came to a Trump rally to show peace, and I think we know that. Your thoughts to Mike Pence and why he has such animus towards these folks and why he doesn't distinguish the difference between the people who did do crimes, who were probably there on behalf of Antifa, and the folks who are there to peacefully go to their home, the people's house, Joe?
Mike Pence is a Judas. He's a traitor to this country. He's a traitor to democracy. He talks just like Judas would have spoke if he didn't hang himself. There were hundreds of wrongdoers at the Capitol that day. I would say probably 95% of them were not Trump supporters. I would say that a good 40% of them were paid agitators, whether they were actual members of the DC Metropolitan Police Force, whether they belonged to the FBI, the CIA, or the Men in Black. We don't know. We're never going to know. But we have seen them on video. We have watched them act in concert with each other. I have published these wrong actors in undercover regular civilian gear, climbing up ladders, telling people to go, climbing over the scaffolding, pushing officers, the whole 9 yards. They participated in it. They encouraged it to the highest level possible. And before people got to the Capitol, when people started crossing the peace circle, all of the material that said, don't come on Capitol grounds, don't go here, don't go there, all the fencing was all taken down. Not one of those people have ever been arrested. The gallows that were put up that morning, that was put up by God knows who, but it wasn't Trump supporters. Those people have never been arrested. The pipe bomber, never been arrested, never been found. The whole thing stinks to high heaven. Any reasonable person who can look at this from an objective standpoint that's not so tainted and poisoned by their own political bias can see that there are many things that was wrong with what happened on January 6th. A Supreme Court case comes out. It's going to be a controversial ruling. They put up fencing in an hour, right? Everybody knew that this was going to happen. Trump asked for the National Guard. They let it happen because they wanted it to happen. Thank God. Thank God that God himself did not abandon this country. Thank God that people came out and voted for President Trump. And it is my sincerest hope that President Trump will reconvene the January 6th committee to get to the bottom of what took place that day. There are good people still on the Hill, like Congressman Clay Higgins, Congressman Corey Mills, Anna Paulina Luna, lots of people on there on the Hill in Congress who want to get to the bottom of what happened. And I think that we have enough time to do it if they have the courage to do it on day one.
Yeah, they want us to move on, Joe. They want us to move on from investigating what happened in 2020 during the election. There's folks who say they want us to move on from January 6th, give them the pardons and let's move on. You can't do that, Joe, because people paid the price of something they did not do. It doesn't work like that, Joe. A man who's been in jail for 20 years being accused of rape, and then after 20 years comes out because they find out that he wasn't actually a rapist, which we see a lot more happening now than we've ever seen before. Is he supposed to just go on his daily life, Joe, and go back to assimilate back to normal society like nothing happened? What about the folks who are mentally now not well because of sitting in jail cells? Joe, I spoke to a lady, I think her name was Cindy Young on this show, a 77-year-old lady from New Hampshire. Beautiful, old, elderly lady, Joe. Tells me she walked through the Capitol, met a police officer, waved her through. She's now facing time in jail. Will lose her Social Security, will lose her business if she is convicted later on this month. I mean, these are human beings, Joe.
100%, John. In the cases, look, I became an attorney because my own brother was wrongfully convicted. That was the reason why I decided to go to school in an effort to try to get him out. The wrongful conviction issue is something that's very near and dear to my heart. And when these men who have been wrongfully convicted and they've done time in jail, especially serious time, they sue for millions and millions of dollars. There have been awards that 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars, depending on how long that you've been in jail. This was about targeting the Trump supporters who went to the Capitol, targeting them and their families to disenfranchise them from the political process, to disenfranchise them from gun ownership, to make sure that they couldn't get meaningful and gainful employment anymore, and to bankrupt them as a means to an end, to send a message to them, anyone like them, that if you stand against the deep state and the current regime who's in power, we will crush you. Yep. Are they due recourse? Yes, 100%. Will they get it? It's going to be interesting because of the statute of limitations. There are a few complications, but if President Trump advocates for that, and if we get the right kind of backing with it in Congress, then anything is possible.
Well, the only case we've seen them go to the Supreme Court, they ruled in, we'll say our favor, because, Joe, we're on the side of truth, justice, and the American way for these poor folks who have been so done wrong. And you want to talk about reparations, Joe? Let's talk about reparations to these folks. I want to take a quick break here. We're talking with attorney Joe McBride, CEO and founder of McBride Law. We're coming right back with him. Stay with us, folks.
Because of your overwhelming support, our $14.88 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
We're back. We're talking with attorney Joseph McBride, big supporter of the January 6 folks who have been so done wrong. And I want to give a shout out to Julie Kelly, another one who's on this show often. Go to her Substack, juliekelly.substack.com. She lays out what you mentioned before, Joe, a chronological order of events of President Trump calling for the National Guard, kicking up the ladder, kicking it back down the ladder. Chief Stephen's son, back up the ladder, back down the ladder. Son asks Bowser, can we do it? She kicks it to someone else. Just a whole cluster mess. Ultimately, we never get the National Guard. We find out later that day that Nancy Pelosi wants the National Guard, but that's after the fact that President Trump, suggested we do it 7 days earlier. So Julie Kelly does a great job at that Substack, juliekelly.substack.com, I believe is her Substack. Joe, you had mentioned the government agitators, the folks who were put there on behalf of the United States government. Well, we have an IG report that was supposed to come out, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so. We still don't have it out. It was delayed until after the election. I believe Michael Horowitz is behind that. That's a man who we know the name very often, very familiarly on this show. But nonetheless, this report was supposed to come out, and he spilled the beans early, and he told us before Congress that there were government folks there who may have been there acting. When do we expect this report to come out, and what do you expect to see in this report?
It's going to be interesting because the main charge that is on its face unconstitutional is the obstruction charge that January 6ers were charged with. And what I believe is happening right now in the halls of power in Washington, D.C. is probably the biggest, most massive obstruction operation ever happening. They're ordering shredders. They're destroying documents. They're breaking computer hard drives. You name it. They're going to do everything under the sun to conceal what happened that day. And that is a travesty of justice. I don't know if we're ever going to get to the bottom of it. But what I can say, and you gave Julie Kelly a shout out. It was Julie Kelly, Miranda Devine, and Tucker Carlson were the first people out there, Lou Dobbs. And there wasn't really anybody else after that for the first couple of years. Everybody was so scared to talk about what actually happened because the idea of agents at the Capitol and in the process of identifying them, it's muddy waters. Like, what does it mean to be an agent at the Capitol? You got people who are active members of law enforcement from different agencies who were there. And you also had a bunch of people, I would say hundreds of people who were at the Capitol that day that participated in nefarious activities. And they had a history with government, right? They were CIs, they were confidential informants, they were working off, or they owed the government a debt. They went there, they caused trouble. We identified a lot of these people. Right? Some of these people we identified, and the government never owned actually working with them or having command and control over them. What they did was bring them into DC court and give them a slap on the wrist. And then this person got a January 6th conviction. Well, if you look at somebody that was at the Lower Western Terrace where a big battle happened, and if you look at one guy who was just an honest Abe who went there that day, he gets 5 years in jail. Right. And then you look at another guy who's an alleged informant or an alleged agent, he gets a month in jail. You know that something is wrong, right? So they had to burn a lot of the assets on the ground, but you can tell by the very limited punishment that these guys got that this is really what was going on. We need to get to the bottom of it. President Trump and Congress are the only people that can do this, and they need to take this seriously because I don't know if Horowitz is ever going to give us what we need.
Well, I think he'll have no choice at this point now with President Trump and his administration. We're going to get to Matt Gaetz in a little bit, hopefully our next attorney general, who I think will do an absolute amazing job on this. But the accountability, Joe, you're an attorney, Liz Cheney. We find out now that she was going behind the scenes and talking with a witness who then came before Congress, testified. Liz Cheney said she had never met this woman before, never spoke to this woman before. We find out there's text messages of her corroborating evidence, speaking on the telephone, asking if they can talk on the phone. Now, we all know what that means, Joe. I worked at Fox News, and it's called the nothing in writing policy. When you don't want something in writing, you get an email, hey, can you give me a quick call? So we obviously know that there was something going on there now behind the scenes. These folks, I think they committed act. You want to talk about treason? What they did to this country, those people on the January 6th committee, one of them just got promoted, Senator Pencilneck now, Adam Schiff, is now a senator after what he's did. That man has been lying, Joe, because of congressional immunity, because they can say whatever the hell they want and get away with it. No such thing as defamation. Has been lying now since January 6th of 2021, and he's gotten away with it. You'd mention folks like, we'll say Ray Epps. Now, I don't know what Ray Epps' role is. I hear he's very involved in the January 6th instances, but he was never charged with anything. Is that correct?
He was charged, and I think he might have taken a plea to a misdemeanor. But look, this is exactly what I was talking about. Ray Epps is the guy on the ground the night before, the day of, going to the Capitol, command control. He's dressed in military gear. He's got a history with the government. Any other guy who did anything like that got 10 years. Right? But somebody like Ray Epps gets no jail time. It's unconscionable. It's clear and convincing evidence that these guys are in cahoots with each other. And it's only because he got outed that he got a very insignificant slap on the wrist. When you're talking about Adam Schiff, it's a very unfortunate situation. But you mentioned the list of rhinos earlier in your opening monologue. The MAGA movement, the America First movement that's now in power, right? We have to continue to drive this message home. Truth, justice, the American way, America First, accountability in government for the next 100 years, right? Donald Trump is the George Washington, the birther of this movement. But this movement has to carry on. These people need to get out. That is the only way we overcome these issues in perpetuity. Otherwise, they're just going to play the long ball. They're going to wait us out like the Taliban in Afghanistan for 4 years, and it's going to be back to business as usual. We can't have that. There has to be a message that this is the way going forward.
Yeah, and the voters out there, you guys got to smarten up, and we all do. I'm not saying just you, it's me too. We have to start holding these people accountable. We can't just go ahead and keep voting in the Mitch McConnells of the world because he's been there for 100 years and you just go and you circle Republican. It can't be like this way anymore, folks, because it's ruining our country. The Susan Collins of the world, the Lisa Murkowskis, the Sullivans from up in Alaska, these people are ruining the Republican Party, the Romney rhinos. They've got to go. We've got to start primarying these people. And I think what Elon Musk is doing right now is absolutely brilliant. He's raising a fund, a PAC rather, where he's going to start going after and primarying these folks who are undermining the Republican Party, who are undermining President Trump's agenda. They did it in 2016. They would have done it in 2020, and they will do it in 2024. You know, I was reading something the other day that if President Trump would have won, obviously he won in 2020, but if he would have taken office again in 2020, he would have had a split house. He wouldn't have been able to get anything through. And this sort of 2024 issue we've got in front of us is a godsend. He has the House. He has the Senate. He's got the Supreme Court. He's got it all. And if you listen to MSNBC and CNN, they'll tell you he's going to be a dictator. He's going to go ahead and rule like Caesar. It's not the case. He's come out now after the election and said, I don't want a national abortion ban. He said it before the election. They went after him and said, you're going to ban all abortions across the United States. He says, I'm not going to do that. He's come out now after the election and says, I'm definitely not going to do that. He puts Robert F. Kennedy in HSS. Obviously, they don't agree on the abortion thing. So it's things like that, Joe, but nobody holds the mainstream media accountable for their role in this whole thing. CNN running hours and hours of the January 6th bullshit, the tapes, all that garbage, hours and hours. Now, they're paying the price when it comes to advertisers because nobody watches that garbage anymore, but nobody holds them accountable, Joe. How do we change this?
One of the ways we change this is by reinvigorating the concept of an informed citizenry, right? We are citizens of the greatest country the world has ever known. And we have a civic duty to be well informed, to understand how our government works, and to not be duped because we can't find a search result that we need on Google, or because some schmuck at CNN or MSNBC is feeding us garbage that we know is wrong. If you were to sit down and have a meal at a restaurant, if you were to pick something up, put it in your mouth, and if it tasted bad, you'd immediately put it down. I'm not going to put that in my body. It's the same stuff. Same thing with this stuff. We know a lot of this stuff is bad for us. But for whatever reason, we did it. Our parents are certainly guilty of just perpetually ingesting this filth and this garbage. Right. Your point about Elon Musk, it's the dawn of a new era. It's the dawn of a new information age. And with that age comes responsibility. And it comes what I would proffer as a higher IQ for the general public. We have a duty to be informed. We have a duty to shout this nonsense down. We have a duty not to participate in watching these Hollywood movies that these Satanists appear in regularly, or listening to this garbage music, or turning on TV channel that we know is proffering nothing but propaganda to the American public. Nope. We have a duty to bankrupt them. We have a duty to participate in the free marketplace of ideas and debate, and to support the companies and the candidates who speak truth to power. And, we've done a good job thus far of getting to where we're at today. Yeah. And now we need to 10X it going forward.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Absolutely brilliant. We're going to take one more quick break here. When we return, I want to take up Matt Gaetz and his job over at the Justice Department running the place. I'm pretty excited thinking about it. We're talking with Joe McBride. You can check him out, McBrideLaw.com, McBrideLawNYC.com. You can follow him on Twitter at McBrideLawNYC. If you need a lawyer, folks, I'm not going to give you his number on air in case there's any Marxist Dems on here who want to prank call him, but you go to McBrideLawNYC.com. If you need a lawyer, if you want to follow any of the great work that Joe's doing for January 6ers and all these political prisoners who have just absolutely been suffering for these last few years. We're coming right back with Joe McBride. Stay with us, folks.
Because of your overwhelming support, our $14.88 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing. Including my classic standard MyPillow is only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
We're back. We're talking with attorney Joseph McBride. Folks, a great American, one of Lou's favorite lawyers. For all you guys who watch this show, you know Lou is a very small base of guests that he actually likes. So if you were on Lou's show, chances are Lou liked you, and he liked you a lot. If you weren't on Lou's show, it was probably because he didn't like you, and that's, you know, just the way it goes. Anyone who knows Lou knows that's the case. But nonetheless, Joe was one of our go-to guys, and he's going to be one of our go-to guys moving forward here as we go into this next Congress and we go into these next few years of political persecutions. Joe, I thought when President Trump won on November 5th, November 6th, it was going to be over. We now find out there's a former NFL linebacker who was arrested last week for his role in January 6th. What the hell is going on?
Unbelievable. You know, the fact that they're arresting that gentleman is unconscionable. I believe that it's payback for what that gentleman has done with his life. He actually went to law school, became a lawyer, and they're going after him in an effort to cancel him. It's wrong what has happened to him. That's Mr. Antoine Williams. I have a good feeling in my stomach that he'll be vindicated at the end of the day. And hopefully the Matt Gaetz DOJ will just look at that case for what it is and just DP it and say, get the hell out of here with this garbage.
Yeah, and we're here reporting now that there's a great deal, Joe, this is a quotation of it, quote, anxiety and dismay inside the Justice Department after President Trump taps Matt Gaetz to run the DOJ. So, if they don't like it, that means it's probably good for the country. What happens we'll start with J6ers when Matt Gaetz takes over as Attorney General, in your opinion?
So, Matt Gaetz has an opportunity to decline to prosecute all pending cases right now, to just take them and throw them in the garbage and say any outstanding cases that haven't made their way into the court system just need to go away. Then he has an opportunity to reverse engineer these investigations and take a look at whose constitutional rights have been violated. Where the FISA court used improperly. There's a bunch of things that he can do right there. But the policy on day one of the incoming Department of Justice needs to be to turn the faucet off on these January 6th persecutions and to turn the faucet up and to turn the volume up on the investigation into the corruption that has been taking place in this country for the past, especially the past 4 years, but really the past 40 years.
So what can we do about those folks who have been wrongfully overcharged, we'll call it, because that's exactly what's been done to them? What can we do for those folks who have, should have been charged with misdemeanors and a slap on the wrist and $1,000 fine or a $500 fine, who have served time in jail? Folks like Jake Lang, who has now been in jail for years with no trial. What can we do for folks like them?
So first and foremost, we can pray, right? And I mean that wholeheartedly. Secondly, I spent a lot of time up on Capitol Hill and a lot of time with Congress men and women and their staffers, and they sort of have this unwritten rule that if 10 to 20 people from their district call in on a specific issue, then they're going to act on that issue. So what I would encourage the general public to do is to find out who your congressperson is and to call into that person and say, hey, listen, I'm deeply concerned over the mistreatment of the January 6th prison population. I want to encourage you to participate in their exonerations, their pardons, their commutations, and eventually financial compensation. That's really what the general public can do in conjunction with, of course, advocating for people in the free marketplace of ideas and on social media and at the Thanksgiving dinner table.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the number for that, and Lou used to give it out all the time on this show because he was tired of it. He wanted people to do their damn job, these members of Congress. 202-224-3121, 202-224-3124, that 3121. Again, 202-224-3121. It's the White House, Congressional Switchboard. Call them up and tell your members of Congress. Folks, if enough of you guys call, I worked in Congress. I know exactly how it works. If enough of you guys call, the message gets to the headmaster. It gets to the member of Congress. A lot of times, the offices are very small. A lot of times, the members of Congress are walking around the office and hear these phone calls ringing. So if you bombard your congresswoman, your congressman, tell them to do their damn job and get to the bottom of this because it's enough is enough. When do you expect we'll see some pardons come out from President Trump, from the Trump administration?
It could be as early as day one. It's going to be very interesting to see how they do it. If it's general pardons, it could come out. I mean, he should probably announce it right away, at least within the first week. I think he has a duty within the first day or the first 72 hours of his administration to say exactly what he's going to do and how it's going to be handled. You know, there's the idea of just general pardons, saying, hey, look, some of you were less than perfect, but you weren't treated like Antifa or BLM. There was a heavy hand here. Others of you really didn't do nothing, but the greater wrongdoer in the saga for January 6th is the federal government and how they mistreated and over-prosecuted and over-sentenced you as a general population. And for that reason alone, I'm going to issue a general pardon. If he does that, it'll bring great healing to the United States of America. You know, when you look at the troubles in Northern Ireland and the 1998 Good Friday Agreement, they released some 400 prisoners. The Democrat Unionists were against it. Lots of them were sick to their stomach over it, but they agreed to do it at the end of the day because of it was the necessary component for the sufficiency of healing in that country. And it worked. The violence stopped, the political unrest stopped, and Ireland is now a peaceful place. Unless you're looking at the invasion of immigrant problem over there, but that's a separate issue, right? So there's a very big opportunity for President Trump to do that. And if he doesn't issue a general pardon, then he's probably going to issue a sentencing commission. It'll probably be a case by case basis, but he needs to say, if not on day one, by day three, exactly what the plan is going forward. He campaigned on it. So many people are eagerly anticipating his messaging on it. We need to know what's going on immediately. With regard to that issue.
Yeah, I know President Trump personally, obviously through Lou. I've met the man many times. I've spoken with the man many times. He's a man of his word, Joe. And you know how I know he's going to keep up on this promise? Because he never backed down from it, Joe. He sat at debate stages. He stood on debate stages. And when asked a question, he didn't shy away from it, which he politically, I'm sure 9 out of 10 political advisors would have told him, skate around the question. Don't answer the question directly. He went right at it. And he looked at Kamala and he looked at Joe Biden and said, those people are in there because of you, not because of something they did wrong. So I don't think President Trump would have went out on the limb, risking losing the election to stand up for J6ers and then come into office and say, oh, forget about you guys. So I have great confidence in President Trump that he is going to be a man of his word, as he always has been, coming through on 99% of his promises. And the 1% were stopped short about something we were talking about earlier, is personnel, which is President Trump admits is not his best thing, and it's probably because he's too nice of a guy. Everyone goes out there and sees him as this, big alpha male, but President Trump's got a massive heart, and he gives too many people way too many chances, in my opinion. Joe, I want to wrap up with something, another big issue. How do we clean up the DOJ? How are we going to clean up the FBI? How are we going to finally say enough is enough? Get out the rot, the people who are the holdovers, which are probably trying to hide under desks right now in garbage pails, in paper shredders. How do we go ahead and put an end to that and finally get rid of these people once and for all so that they're not sitting there undermining the Trump agenda? The folks in the DNI who are going to be working for Tulsi Gabbard, the folks in the FBI who will hopefully be working for Kash Patel. Those folks, how do we get out the bottom rotters who manage to just stay there after administration after administration?
A lot of these, as you know, in Washington, you got career people, and you got people who are there pursuant to an administration.
Right.
Lots of the rot comes from the career people who are in DOJ, FBI, and other places. These places need to be culled. They need to be absolutely gutted from the top all the way down to the bottom. New leadership needs to come in. Strong, intelligent leadership, America First leadership needs to come in. I would suggest resurrecting guys who have retired and gals who have retired. Let them come in for a few years. I know many of them. Brad Geyer, Jeff Clark, lots of people who are at the DOJ for a long time who are capable patriots who want to go in and reverse engineer a lot of the filth and a lot of the garbage that we have seen. It's going to be a hard job. You're going to have to look people in the face and say, look, I understand you've been here your whole life, but it's time for you to get the hell out of here. And, it's going to take somebody like a Matt Gaetz and a Donald Trump in the DOJ in order to get that stuff done. Yeah. Lots of people are jumping up and down about these appointments, but, I'm a practicing Catholic. I like to use Jesus in a lot of my analogies. And when you think about his apostles and the people that he called, tax collectors, fishermen, rough guys who they weren't the academics of their day. Lots of people snapped their head around in the Sanhedrin and they were like, you're calling these people to lead your new church? Like, what kind of guy are you? But, God doesn't look at the outside. He looks at the heart. And Donald Trump is calling people into his administration and into his cabinet because he knows them personally. He knows their heart. He knows their mind and their heart are aligned in the right place, and that America is everything to these people. So if you don't like Matt Gaetz, that's probably a good sign. Yeah. I love him. I think he's going to do a great job. And I'm looking forward to just all these people walking out like Lehman Brothers, after 2011, just walking out holding their baskets and never coming back.
The thing that scares the hell out of me, Joe, is the fact we were talking about this before. Is the snakes in the grass, the rhino Republicans who are looking for jobs now. There's a lot of jobs to be had in the White House. I've had people reach out to me asking me if I was interested in doing it. It's a decision I don't know. I would only want to go work there if there was a job that I can make consequential advice to the president, things that can help this country. I wouldn't just go there to go take a job to say I work in the White House, be a paper pusher. I have no interest in doing that, Joe. I think some of us are put on this earth, like you and I, to spread a message. Other people are put on this earth to sit behind a desk and do the work that we don't want to do, and procedural things and things like that. But the problem is there's so many jobs to be had. And there's so many bottom feeders and rats and snakes in the grass who are going to whittle their way in there, the Cassidy Hutchinsons of the world. They're going to make their way back into the White House. They're going to be looking to set him up. They're going to be looking to record him. Good news is he never has to run for president again. The good news is he has the House for the next 2 years, so he's impeachment free at least for the next 2 years. The better news is they probably will hold it tight in the Senate in the next Senate election. So he's probably safe on all fronts on that. But nonetheless, it throws a monkey wrench into his agenda. It slows things down. Do you expect his administration now, as we conclude here, will be better rounded this time around, better vetted this time around?
I think it will be better vetted this time around. President Trump has some good people. He's got some bad apples around him, but he's got some really good people around him as well. Right. I think of my good friend Alex Brucewitz, who's been with him for a long time. Right, Alex is a good judge of character. Somebody who works with the administration. He's been involved in the Trump campaign for a long time. I would hope to see somebody like Alex in the White House. There are other good people, young blood, important blood. John, somebody like yourself, I'd love to see you there as well. President Trump needs stand-up men, stand-up women who are unafraid to judge somebody, who are unafraid to call somebody out, who are unafraid to say, hey, what you're doing right now is of the old guard. It doesn't align with what we're trying to do with this new mission. President Trump has a very limited window, a very limited time frame under which he can accomplish this great mission. He needs the absolute best, highly trained warriors around him, whether they're political warriors, legal warriors that have to do with people in the economy, information warriors, whatever it is. He needs the best of the best. And that doesn't mean that you went to Harvard or you went to Yale. Right. It means that you know what you're doing on the battlefield and you have the results to show it to him and to prove it and to get the job done.
Joe, I'd make the argument that folks who didn't go to Harvard and Yale and Princeton are smarter than those folks who went there. We've seen time and time again. These folks who run our country, Joe, they went to Ivy League schools. Absolute, total idiots, buffoons. Yep. Barack Obama, wherever the hell he went, Harvard and wherever the hell, absolute buffoons, total idiots. You look at these presidential candidates who have made it through the ranks. President Trump stomped every single one of them, every single Ivy League degree, stomped on them all. But you're absolutely right. You know, he does need people in the White House who don't care about the rap they're going to get, the job that they're going to get when they come out. Because folks like you and I, Joe, we're never going to get a job in corporate America. You're never going to go get a job working for Kirkland Ellis. They'll never hire you. And it's probably you should get a trophy for not ever being hired by them, because you would never go work for those scumbags. Number one. Number two, we would never be welcome. I'd never be welcome back in a mainstream news outlet again. I worked for Fox News with Lou for 4 years. I'd never be welcome back there. I'd never be welcome to go work for another thing. And I'm fine with that, Joe. I've accepted it. And the reason I come out here every day and I say what I want to say is because I've accepted that. And I'm happy where I am. And I'm happy I can come out here every single day and say what I want to say and tell the truth to the audience and have folks on like you who are not afraid to say what you want to say. President Trump needs folks like that by his side, folks who are not scared of the repercussions for working for President Trump. That's just my 2 cents, and I think President Trump understands that by now. Joe, as we conclude here, I want to get your final thoughts, and we hope you'll come back soon and often with me hosting the show now. But I want to get your concluding thoughts on America right now, the patriotism we're seeing, where we go from here as we go into this new year, as we head into the Christmas season.
So I live in Brooklyn. And the day after the election, I was walking around and I seen flags everywhere. People were happy in the streets. And it reminded me of the level of patriotism that I saw after September 11th. People were unified. People had a common cause to come around each other and to support each other. September 11th was a horrible thing, but America came together. People came together. Families came together. I'm seeing something similar here again. January 6th and the persecutions and the prosecutions, the stealing of the 2020 election. The last 4 years have been absolutely horrible. But the American person, the American spirit knows that a new day is upon us, right? So hopeful, positive, but people need to get to work. We just took the most important hill in the war, but now we have to defend it. And we have to rout the enemy. These next 4 years are about routing the enemy out of the halls of power. And by no longer subscribing, if it's a Fox News or a CNN or a Kirkland Ellis or whoever it is, we don't need those people. That's blockbuster video. That is the old guard. The new world is moving in a new direction. President Trump is leading the charge. The America First movement is leading the charge. Good men like you, lawyers like me, good people out there in the world are doing everything that we can do for a cause that is bigger than ourselves. That's what this is about. I remain hopeful. I remain grateful. I'm thankful to the American people for voting for President Trump. I'm thankful to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for not abandoning this country.
You're a great American, Joe, and everyone out there should pray for Joe for all that he's going through. And you folks don't realize the backlash Joe probably gets from defending these folks and all the business he's probably lost for defending these folks. But I think there's a good song lyrics, Joe, to end this show. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good as President Trump comes back to the White House. Joe McBride, you can find him, McBrideLawNYC.com, McBride Law NYC on Twitter. You can follow all Joe's great work there. And I'm looking forward to January 20th of 2025, Joe. I think it's probably going to be a good day and a good week for you, but keep up all the great work, brother. You're a great American, and God bless you.
God bless you too, John.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed talking with Joe. He's a great American, and he puts his rear end on the line every day going out there and defending these January 6th folks. A lot of people don't realize what it takes and what it takes out of you to come out here and do what we do every single day. And I'm not saying to pat us on the back, but it's a draining job when you constantly got arrows on your back, and it's a draining job knowing that everyone's gunning for you. But you know what? We do this with pride, and I think we're happy. I could at least speak to myself. I'm happy to do this, and I know Joe is happy to do what he does, defending truth, justice, and the American way. Folks, we'll see you right back here tomorrow for the Great America Show as our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.